was born into a narcissistic environment. My nan ruled the house basically. If she wasn't happy, no one was happy, and if you were happy, she made sure you weren't happy. So I was used to walking on eggshells from being really, really little. I was a little people pleaser from being about 2 years old, all the way through my life. Bullied in primary school, scraped my way through secondary school, and then met my first husband when I was 19, who turned out to be a narcissist. And I didn't really know what this word meant until I was about 35, and then I heard the word. So I just thought that's how things were, because I was used to doing everything to please everybody else. I didn't ever put myself first because I'd never been allowed. And people used to say things to me like, oh my God, why'd you let him do that? Or what, you know, why'd you let him say that to you? And I'd be like, oh, it's all right. Because I was always used to being spoken to like shit from when I was little, really. I'd found the party scene during this time of my first husband, because it was what helped me to escape what was going on. So getting mashed every weekend and just numbing myself, so I'd have such a good time at the weekend with whatever I was doing that I wouldn't feel anything again till Thursday, and then we'd do it all again. So there was the down was worth what was going on, because I couldn't think and I didn't feel, and then all of a sudden things went very, very wrong. I won't go into too much detail, but it wasn't very good. Something made me realise that it wasn't okay anymore. So when I was 25, I escaped. With regard to what I was escaping from, it was fear, constant fear of not being good enough. I just had no self-belief, no self-confidence. I was a nervous wreck. I just want to go back and hug myself, because I was constantly trying to do everything and not asking for any help, because I didn't want to feel like a burden to anyone, and I was burnt out. And I met my second husband, who's like the love of my life, my best mate. Makes me laugh, he's my rock, my whole world. Still together 17 years, we've got 2 kids. Well, I got one free, so I've got 3. So when I met him, the first thing that would come out of my mouth is like, I'm sorry, would you like a cup of tea? And he'd be like, I'm sorry, would I like a cup of tea? He's like, is that even a sentence? So everything I said, I was always like sorry for speaking, or didn't want to disturb anybody, or was always like, oh, because I didn't know how he was going to react to anything that I said. But he was totally different to the other one. I was told I couldn't have children with my ex, but that turned out to be wrong. So 2 children later, still trying to figure myself out, still self-medicating. I was just a bit of a nervous wreck. I was having panic attacks, was on all sorts of different anxiety medication, was also in a bank raid, an armed bank raid. So that sort of toppled me over the edge. I didn't hoist it, no, I worked in the bank. Yeah, they came in with machetes and these big crowbars and got me and my friend, and they were in and out within a minute and a half, but they got something like 120 grand. But that wasn't good. Reiki found me. I met one of my old friends at the school gate, and we got chatting, and she was like, oh, I'm doing Reiki now. And then I found her on Facebook, and she had an attunement, and I didn't even know what it was. But it was my birthday, and I just said, can I have that for my birthday? And he was like, yeah, go ahead. So I went, and it was 2 days, and opened me up to this whole other world of stuff that I'd always secretly loved. I was in the woo closet, like peeking out, like, oh, I can see. And my ex had always told me that it was weird, so I shouldn't do it, and like made me get rid of all my woo books. And if I ever tried to do anything that was a bit woo, he'd be like, do you need to pack that in because it's weird? And it was because it was making me happy. Now I know, looking back, and something just changed. I was able to hear what my body was telling me from the inside out. Became more self-aware of how, if I had a tight throat, it could be because I wasn't saying things that needed to be said, or if I had a pain in my stomach, it was because I was feeling anxious about like not believing in myself, and all the different symptoms and signs that our body gives us are all a sign that we're not in balance. So that started to help me a lot with my own anxiety, and I trained to become a Reiki master so that I could help other people, because it had helped me so much. I wanted to share it with everybody else. My Reiki teacher was doing yoga at the time, and she started telling everyone how amazing it was, and I'd done it before and I was a bit like bored when I'd done it, but I thought I'd give it another go. There was something about the breath work in it, and something about, so I followed yoga with Adrian. I don't know if you've seen her on YouTube. She was my muse. She inspired me to become a yoga teacher, because she made it okay. Like, If you couldn't touch your toes, it didn't matter. She wasn't one of these people that made you feel like you needed to be 6 stone and a pretzel, you know, to be good at yoga. It was all about connecting to yourself and breathing, and that helped me to come off my medication. I think the breath work, and I think just being able to go inwards and again understand what I was thinking and feeling, and I wanted to share that as well, so I became a yoga teacher. At that time I'd lost my dad and my mum within 18 months of each other, and I think the Reiki and the yoga really held me through the grief. My dad died first of an autoimmune disease. He got really sick really quickly, and within 6 months he'd passed away. And watching him go from this, he was a musician, so he was like life and soul. He'd been famous in his youth in a band called Buster, and he played the drums, and he was a singer, and he was just rock and roll, you know. And then when I went to see him, and he was this really little frail man that had lost all his hair, I was like, oh my God. So that was the start of everything. I was like, right, fuck this, life's too short. And I can remember being really, really like devastated that he died. He was my biological dad. And saying to my mum, don't you be going anywhere because I can't cope. Anyway, 6 months later, she was diagnosed with like terminal cancer, and I can just remember thinking, what the fuck? Like, why? You know? But I was going into a good place then. I was doing yoga, I was training to become a yoga teacher, and I failed my exams 3 times because my head was up my arse because of my mum. And then Reiki was helping me. I was having a lot of healing while it was all going on, and I believe that that's why I was able to manage my grief so well, because I had all these tools. But that losing my mum, I remember standing looking at her as she just passed away, and I was like, how the fuck has that happened? Like, she was 61, and I just remember thinking, that's it, like, life's too short. And then we went into lockdown not long after, and I was like, just, do you know what have I got to lose? Nothing became really important. Then the things that were important became really important, like loved ones, health, mental health, and all the little shitty things that used to just do your head in. It'd be like, that doesn't matter, because in the grand scheme of things, this is really what matters. And my mum, I'm sorry, my mum was like my biggest cheerleader, and she always believed in me. And sometimes that's all people need, is just for someone to believe in them. And that's what I want to be for people, is just to show them that you could do whatever you want to do. And, you know, I'll always be your cheerleader. I'll always be there to believe in you, because I know what it feels like to have that. And I do still have that. I've got so many amazing friends and family and everything like that. But just knowing what it feels like to lose that made me want to be it for other people, and just take as many people on the same journey as I've been on. Because why aren't you doing the things that you love? Why are you people pleasing for someone that doesn't give a shit about you? You know, why can't you put yourself first? You need a boundary. You are allowed to take time for you, just to help people find themselves. That's the journey that I want to take people on, and give them tools that are so fucking easy and that feel so gorgeous and help you on so many levels to achieve and maintain and just be who you want to be and just be happy. Just after my mum died, I'd been doing a bit of meditation while I was doing yoga, but I'd never really thought too much about it. And then I found a company called Exhale. I trained with them to become a meditation coach, and that was where everything changed. I was able to become less reactive. I could feel what was coming up within my body. So if I was about to tell the kids to, I don't know, blow me lid, I could take a few breaths and just ground myself. It was absolutely magical. I was less reactive, I had more clarity, and I was getting all these ideas about things that I wanted to do. So I just opened my little studio, everything's going amazing. And lockdown happened, which forced me to move my business online, because I couldn't do yoga online. It just didn't float my boat. I'd done a course at the beginning of lockdown about how to create an online course, which couldn't have come at a better time. And one of the things that she said on the course was, as long as you're doing something that you love, it will always show up. in everything that you're doing. And I just remember, you know, when someone says something to you and you go, oh, so I was like, right, what do I love? And I was like, I love the chakras and I love energy. And I was like, right, I'm going to do a course. So it was called Realign Your Life. It was the very first online course that I ever did, all about energy and the chakras. And I absolutely fucking loved it. It just lit me up because it was everything that I loved. And it was the start of my journey as well. So understanding myself from the inside out. It was only last year I became part of a mastermind, and part of the deal with the mastermind was we got to write our own book, and I didn't know what to write it about. So it took ages. It was going to be called The Big Vagina Chronicles at first, which was going to be all about being a strong woman and overcoming fear. And then I was sitting down speaking to some people and I was like, I just want to be like the feminine energy guide. And I was like, oh, that's it, that is it. And I thought, well, what is that? What does that represent? And it's a journey of self-awareness. So all the things that have helped me is in the book, in the order that it helped me. And so from the beginning to the end, by the time you've read it, you should be able to understand how you feel, what you're thinking, why you're thinking it. That just changed my whole life. Everything in that book was everything that I've used to help me come off my medication, help me to get clean, help me to just have a positive mindset. And like, I haven't had a panic attack now for I think 4 years. See, the word spirituality gets such a bad rap because people think, oh God, like, you know, I used to think of people in like white flowy frocks dancing with the boobs out under the moon, like, oh. But it's more about self-awareness. Like, the journey of meditation is for enlightenment, but enlightenment actually translates to like self-awareness or self-realization, which is just understanding you. I didn't have any boundaries, which again I talk about in my book, but I didn't know it was okay to say no, and I always felt like I needed permission to do anything. And people used to invite me to places and I'd be like, oh, I can't go, and I wouldn't even ask. And this was when I was with Mikey as well, when we had the kids, because I just didn't want him to say no, because I was always scared of that rejection, or that, like, I don't know, I was so used to putting everybody else before myself. Whereas now, this is going to sound bad and it's not meant this way, but Mikey will be like, what have you got on this year? And I'm like, well, I've got that and that and that. And he'll be like, okay, I'll take the holidays. So we'll take his holidays off. But go back even just like 5 years, I would never have dreamt that I would have had this much freedom. I'm so happy. I feel like I completely know who I am. And I love the things that I love, and it's okay if people don't get that, because there are people who will get it, and they are my people that I need to help or work with or inspire or whatever. But you know what? I'm going to cry again. The way Daisy goes, the way I hear Daisy talking to her friends about some of the things that I teach my clients, so it's coming through. Or I'll have a conversation with her and she'll be like, this happened in school today and I said, and this and this and this and this, and that they didn't need to do it if they didn't want to, because if it doesn't feel right, they shouldn't do anything that doesn't feel right. And I'm like, oh my God, yes. Because everything that I'm doing, my children are seeing, and I want them to know that they can do anything and just be anything. My mum was my best friend. Yeah, we were like joined at the hip. Honest, we even have the same voice, so when I'd answer the phone, people were like, hiya Jan, I'd be like, oh no, hang on, it's Nick, and then pass it to my mum. And some of the things she used to say, like, slow down, you know, you're exactly where you're supposed to be, you don't need to rush through life, enjoy the moment, and all these things. And looking back now, I'm like, oh, she used to say that. Or like, another thing she used to say was, not my circus, not my monkeys. You know, if all shit was going off, and I'd be like, and they said that, and they said, she'd go, look, not your circus, not your monkeys, just step away. And I'd be like, yeah, okay. But again, I don't think I would have been doing what I'm doing now if she'd have been here, because I wouldn't have had to step up. And I feel like I got all of her strength, and I also want to carry on. Like, how can I describe it? She was everybody's mum. Like, I don't want to be everybody's mum, but she was there for everyone. Like in her workplace, she was one of the oldest, and everyone used to go to her for a hug, and she was always full of love for everyone and just kindness, and always had time to listen, and was just really gorgeous. So I just feel like I want to take a leaf out of her book as well, and just sort of slow down and be more present, and because that's part of that needs to be the biggest part of the journey, doesn't it? Is the experience of everything, instead of like always rushing to the next thing, which I always have done. Now I'm trying to just be more present, and I think it shows in our energy as well when we're relaxed and in the moment and doing the stuff we love, because it feels right. We light up, don't we?